One thing that I have difficulty with is the notion of time, and I really struggle with this. So for me, I'm very much focused, goal-oriented as an individual. I'm trying to build this reciprocity platform. The E is written with a 3, which is like this sort of sharing economy platform, much akin to a lot of this, car ride sharing type things, or the, room sharing type things. So I'm really focused on building things. I'm really focused on getting things accomplished. But, I think about this idea of wasting time, and I was, I really struggle with it because there's a lot of days where I feel like I'm wasting time, but it's really from whose perspective? What time is it? So first of all, the conception of time is a pretty arbitrary thing. We have, and there's actually a lot of research on this. It's pretty interesting. It's pretty arbitrary in how we define what time is. We can go sort of chronological, which is event time, versus, or chronological versus event time, right? It's chronologically, it is an arbitrary thing. We just kind of made up this sort of notion that time goes by, and it's based on how the sun moves, but 200 years ago, or longer, I guess it would be longer than that, like 500 years ago, there's really not a very good sense of time for most people, where we just kind of got up and we did our thing. Nobody was really attached to your wristwatch or the alarm clock and all those kind of things. You just did what you did. But then we also have sort of an event time where we're looking towards something and we're trying to accomplish something, and that event is actually going to happen. And we sort of, we measure time in terms of significant things that have happened in our life, like, going to college, getting your first job, having your first kid, and those kind of things. And we look back, and we often have these memories. We don't have memories about chronological time. This time this happened, but we have memories about the sort of events and celebrations that have happened in our life. But what I'm thinking about here is a little different in the sort of conceptualization of wasting time. And wasting time is really in what perspective and whose perspective. What does that mean? And the reason why I'm thinking about this is I'm running late, and I feel stressed. I feel pressured in terms of, accomplishing things I want to do. I want to get into my research. That's what I spend most of my days doing, is doing research. The whole reciprocity project is a nights and weekends thing that I'm trying to build out. But as I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking of the reason why I'm running late is I was picking up medications for my kiddo, who's got an earache. And if I wasn't to do that, if I wasn't to pick this thing up, it's not necessarily... So from my perspective, it's a waste of time to go pick up this thing, right? And give him some medication that's going to hopefully solve his earache that he has. But from his perspective, it's making all the world that much better, and it's that much more important in his life. So there's lots of things I worry about in terms of wasting time. It's not only wasting my time and my career and being focused on me, but I also think about, this is something that I worry about my employer, and what they're trying to accomplish and the goals that they have. There's a lot of sort of wastefulness, and I appreciate absolutely everything that they do for allowing me to do this, to go pick up medication for my kid. But at the same time, they're almost investing in my kids and my family, and allowing me to do this because we need this medication. And so can I do this? And the problem is that time, even from the perspective of the pharmacist, it's a little tricky because it's only opened at certain hours, and because the pharmacists themselves have things that they want to do, and they're not necessarily worried about my kids, per se, they're worried about their kids and worried about their life and making sure that they eat and stuff. So they're running and doing the same thing, running errands when maybe their car is broken down and they have to worry about the mechanic's time and, valuing what they're doing. So we have this sort of long-run conceptualization of what time means, and it's interwoven with, economic activity and sort of, accomplishing things in this world. And it's not as clear as what one would think, is what I'm getting at. And instead of thinking about wasting time, and I'm trying to rationalize this and work through this myself, and a lot of what I do in this reciprocity project is me trying to think about, like, man, how am I dealing with this? How do I help? I'm talking to my own shrink at this moment. What I have to think about is it's a little bigger than who I am, and wasting time is kind of a bad notion. Because this assumes that the only thing that's important is the thing that you're working on. And there's many other things in the economic system, in the sort of network, or, I think they call it transitivity, where something affects something else, affects something else, and affects something else. There is a lot more that goes on, and valuing your time and your conceptualization of what matters to you is not necessarily the thing that's ultimately important. So, for example, if my world was the only thing that was really important, and what I was doing was really the only thing that was important, let's say that I demanded that the pharmacist, so it was closed, I was supposed to go get it last night, but I couldn't because I was driving my kids. I'm being a single parent right now. My wife's away, and if I would have demanded the pharmacist to be open late at night so I can go and get my medications for my kids, well, that means that they're the pharmacist is probably going to be tired. B, that they are missing out on their own kids that just as much matter, and their kids might end up being, so my kids might end up being a complete disaster in this world, right? In 30 years from now, they go on and they become, bank robbers, and they steal a bunch of stuff. So then we just dedicated a bunch of time. They dedicated a bunch of time to ensure that a bank robber was getting, proper care. But then their kids could have went on and became the inventor of the cure for cancer. And we took away from their kids so that they possibly, because of the time that the pharmacist devoted to my kids, they would not have had the time to dedicate to their own kids. And because of that, we don't have a cure for cancer, because their kids didn't grow up properly because they should have been. So when we think about wasting time, and we think about the guilt that we feel, and that we should be prioritizing our own objectives, we really need to start thinking that the world is bigger than us. And it's really hard to do because we have these fears and anxieties, and we have sort of nervous reactions to uncertainties. And this is a moment where there's uncertainty, where you are feeling like you're wasting time. So as you do this, and as you live through life, and you have the sort of moments where you're thinking about wasting time, take a pause, take a deep breath, and think about, maybe this wasting time is actually important in your life. Maybe you're actually helping somebody else that matters, but also wasting time is a moment where you can take a step back and work on something that is not completely goal focused, and then B, reflect on how big this world is, and reflect on wasting time is a really important part of life. And this conceptualization of time really is a little perverted in a little bit of way, because it's so self-focused. It's so self-focused on your own perspective. But really, we should be thinking about how it's a bigger thing, and not get caught up in the moment, but appreciate the fact that you do have the time to help out your kids. You do have the time to value the pharmacist. You do have the time to reflect. I think that's the more important thing. All right, if you like this one, leave a comment or two in the podcast. It does help out, and I appreciate it. Take care, and have a wonderful day.